Before the Rings of Power, there were the Silmarils. Before Sauron, there was his master Morgoth. Before Aragorn and Arwen, there was Beren and Luthien. Join us as we explore Tolkien and all the ages of Middle-earth with your hosts from theonering.com, Jonathan Watson and Michael Grumbine.
Oh man, this is the third episode of us going through all the changes in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings films. And it feels like it's been forever because we've got through only 6, and it's like we've talked so much about it already. And we've got 3 more to go, and I think we're like maybe 4% of the way done.
Yeah, how many are there total?
They keep growing. That's the problem. We have to figure it out.
We're above 300 now, right?
We're not above 300. We're above 200 now, but it's growing. And the Return of the King has a bunch. I have to triage some of those and go through them. But yeah, if you have a change, please go to theonering.com/changes and let us know. Even if you don't want to look at our other changes, we'll make sure that we don't double them up, obviously. If you're like, hey, they changed this, I don't want to take the time to look at this page that you have with this huge list of changes, then just go ahead and tell us, and we'll use it or not. So we have been going through these changes, and this day is going to be interesting because I think we're going to disagree. Maybe
it's
not.
More fun that way.
It's more fun. But for now, I'm going to give you guys who are listening, because what we do is we also post these on YouTube as just like little 8-9 minute shorts that have each numbered, right? Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, etc. for each change, so that people can just watch those instead of going through all this intro stuff that you guys are probably like skipping through on your podcast app anyway. So
30 seconds, 30
that's
seconds,
right.
30
That's
seconds.
Right. So right now, on our 3 questions of, is it lore friendly? Does it make for better cinema? And how much do you like the change? Is it lore friendly? Both you and I, Michael, we are 2 out of 6 for our 6 so far. So we're at 33%. On does it make for better cinema? We're 3 out of 6. So we're at 50% on those. And each of us, I know, we're trying to change.
But our answers are different. What's interesting is our numbers are like, if people listen to the podcast, we had differing answers. They've added up to the same number, but there were some differences in opinion.
And then on the how much do you like the change? Your average is a 3.6 and mine is a 3.2, which isn't surprising, which is about right. I have a feeling that will continue. I'll be curious to see how much more mine's going to drop.
Well, yeah, I think it's possible we're both going to drop. These general changes I'm a little more forgiving about in some cases than some of the other stuff. But let's get into it.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to get into it. Before I get into it, though, hey, this is our standard, guys. If you want to support us, because we really appreciate the support, it just takes a lot of time and energy, and of course we pay for all the different hosting and the StreamYard and all that. And if you want to support us, even if you don't want to listen to the extended podcast, just become a member. Go to theonering.com/member and tell us that, hey, I like what you're doing. I've gotten some great feedback this week. Last week we were talking about some folks who are unhappy with the way we were doing things. And now I got like, hey, you guys are doing great. We love this stuff. This is really interesting. Even if I disagree with you, I like that you're going through it and making me think, right? And that's half of our goal, is like, let's think about this a little bit harder so we can better approach the films and the books with a more knowledgeable standpoint. So go to theonering.com/member. You got the extended podcast. I don't even know what we're going to talk about. I just copied and pasted the questions from Discord into my little doc here. So I didn't even want to read them, so that Michael and I are going to come into this completely 100% unscathed, unmarked. We don't have any clue what they're going to be talking about. So I'm just going to leave that wide open this time.
So if you want to hear us babble like fools.
No.
I mean,
babble. We don't babble. We speak with clear authority and truth. You can go to theonering.com/member.
One of us does.
All right. We're going to jump into our first change we're going to talk about. We call it the Hobbit youth movement.
It's wonderful to see you, Gandalf.
Sorry.
Get it! Shut it! Hold him!
The reason that I pulled those clips together is they're just there to show how young the Hobbits are. and let me take one little step back. So we all know that the hobbits are supposed to be older. Well, not we all. Many of us know the hobbits are supposed to be older in the books. In the books, and correct me if I'm wrong, Frodo is 50 when he goes on the. So two things. Frodo is 33 at the beginning of the books when Bilbo has his birthday, because Bilbo and Frodo share the same birthday.
Right. The long expected party, yes.
The party. He's 33, and then when he goes on the quest, he's 17 years older. He's 17 years older, and he's 50. So by the time they go on the quest, Frodo is 50, Sam is 38, Merry is 36, and Pippin is 28. So that's a big difference. Obviously, to compress time, to make the changes that were necessary, we couldn't really just randomly say 17 years passed and all of a sudden they're a bunch older, right? I understand why Peter Jackson couldn't really do that. Was I disappointed? That really didn't bother me a ton, because those 17 years passed pretty fast in the books too. So anyway,
Tolkien doesn't go through all kinds of stuff that was happening in those 17 years. We learn about some of the things Gandalf was doing later, but we don't see any of those years passing in like there's a couple paragraphs and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. So one thing to remember though is the Hobbits isn't it 33 is the coming of age for the Hobbits? Then you're considered an adult. It's they're 18, so they're almost like doubled in age. So 33 is say 18. So that means if you're 28, it's kind of like you're 15 maybe, or 16. So there's the hobbits have an extended life. They live longer than humans, as far as I can tell. I think even like Sam was like 100 when he went to the Grey Havens.
Yeah, average age of a hobbit is hobbits die between 90 and 100 on average.
Okay, so their coming of age is at 33. Peter Jackson clearly decided I can't make them all that old. Elijah Wood was 18 when they started filming, right? Like right here in the shot that you see on screen. So they decided to make them younger. Anything else to say about that before we jump into our three questions, Michael?
Yes. So that's I guess I can get into the meat when we get into the three questions about why I'm giving the answers I am. But let me just say, my general sense, which is where we may differ on this, is that, as you say, the Hobbit coming of age is 33. So that's 15 years older than we are coming of age in the modern world anyway. 15 to 17-ish. They live about 20 years longer than humans. Bilbo was the longest lived hobbit ever at 131 years old. So he was about 36 years older than the average hobbit. And so what's clear to me from what Tolkien is saying is that if their coming of age is 33, that means they're going to mature biologically. They're going to mature more slowly than humans, and get into their full adulthood at 33, and they're going to live a little longer than humans too. So that carries forward, that number of years carries forward almost directly. And this is why my answers are going to be what my answers are going to be about this. This one doesn't bother me. And the reason it doesn't bother me...
Hey, stop. We got to get into questions. You're not allowed to.
Okay, all right. Goodness. Therefore, okay, context given.
There's a program here. There's a process we have to follow to keep everybody happy, particularly me. All right, so first question we always ask is it lore friendly? Does this match with what Tolkien wrote in the Lord of the Rings books? I guess no. It's not lore friendly to change the ages of the characters. It's kind of obvious. It's just not lore friendly.
Yeah. I'm going to say no as well. So the reason I'm going to say no, though, is because of Frodo. So Frodo should be distinctively older than the others, and he isn't. I wouldn't have a problem with it. I wouldn't even call it lore unfriendly to show them young looking, the other three hobbits, because they are young looking for hobbits. They're all around a few years around what we would consider 18. So right. Pippin's like 16, and Merry and Sam are about the same age. They're about the equivalent of like 21-ish, in human years. So they're all young looking. And they're all young for hobbits, except Frodo. Frodo should look like he's like 30 or so, in his 30s, and he doesn't. So that's the reason I end up on no. But for the other three, I end up on yes, because it is lore friendly, because it doesn't tell us, oh, these guys are such and such years old. It just shows us young looking hobbits, and that's not lore unfriendly.
Yeah. And honestly, the biggest difference is Frodo looks like the youngest of the hobbits. That's a complete flip.
So because of Frodo, I have to say no. The other hobbits actually look the right age, and that's why, because they look around 18-ish years old, 18, 19, 20 years old, which
Yeah.
is what they would look like as hobbits. That's my case. That's where I'm putting my stand
landing
down.
the plane.
In
All
fact,
right,
I'm changing my answer to yes, because 3 out of 4 means it's mostly yes. So I'm going to say yes.
all right.
It is lore friendly, mostly.
You're making
It's
this tough on me.
mostly peaceful. I mean, mostly lore friendly.
It's a mostly lore friendly. CNN would approve.
All right.
All right. Let's move into the second question, which is: does the change make for better cinema? You start on this one, Michael.
Since I only think the change is in Frodo, because I've already answered that I don't think there's a change visually, because they didn't tell us. Peter Jackson never said Pippin was young. Well, it was like 18 years old. He just, the years are unknown. So he shows him young, and he should look young. And so the only change was Frodo. And does the change make better cinema? Yes. And the reason it makes better cinema is because the primary character of the Hobbits is innocence, and they are frequently mistaken for children, not just because of their size, but if you remember, Pippin is mistaken for a child in Minas Tirith when he's there by people that are seeing him up close. And so it's not just that they are, older, but they're small. They actually look young. And so Frodo looking young does make better cinema, because the hope and the innocence that the Hobbits have as their primary characteristic is what enables Frodo to weather the ring for so long. So it does make visually, it makes better cinema, and cinema is primarily a visual medium. So my answer is yes.
Does it make for better cinema? I'm indifferent. So to me, the answer is no. I don't think it makes it better in the sense that. So here's the thing: age is a construct of not it's not how they look, right? Aragorn is 89. Obviously, he's a Dunedain. He has 87. 87. 87. He has extreme old age, right? He's not going to be like the kings of Numenor, where the longest lived one I think was almost 400 years. I think, but he's middle aged at 87. Well, hobbits, in a sense, at 50 are also middle aged. It's kind of like being 35 in a way.
Only one hobbit's 50. Remember.
I understand, but what I'm saying is they making him, like, if they would have simply changed Frodo into be a slightly older person, I think they liked Elijah Wood so much that they felt like they had to stick with the young hobbit thing right there. Right. Because you look, Pippin. Billy Boyd, he was 32 or 33, I think, when they started.
He was the oldest of the. He
was the oldest one, which is funny because he's supposed to be the youngest here by 22 years younger than Frodo in the books.
Well, a Scottish accent makes you younger, don't you know?
Well, it's because if it's not Scottish, it's crap. So, so I don't know. I just don't think it's as like, I'm indifferent about this, but I would say no. It doesn't make for better cinema. It just makes it different.
Okay, that's fair.
All right. Let's go to the next one. The final question is: how much do you like the change of making them younger? How much do you like the change? Okay. Like I said, I'm indifferent. So to me, it does, like, you can still have the same character whether they're younger or they're older. It's not a huge deal to me. So I'm just going to go straight down the middle. We're going to go with the straight 2.5 on this one. It doesn't matter. It's fine. I don't care. Whatever. I'm not going to lose any sleep over this one.
Okay. I'm going to go much higher. The reason is I actually remember, I'm only arguing about Frodo because the other three aren't a change in my mind, because they're visually shown to be the right age, which is young hobbits. The Frodo is the only change, and as I've said, the change gives you the impression of innocence and hope, which I think I liked. So I'm going to go 4.1.
Wow, 4.1.
Remember, my scale is.
Do you even like J.R. Tolkien?
A 4. I do. In fact, the books will always be better than movies. But if you're making a movie, do I like the change? Yes, I do. I like making Frodo younger.
I don't. Yeah, to me, it's sort of like it doesn't even. I don't like. I care so little about this one that to me it doesn't bother me.
That's fair.
It's sort of like right in the middle.
And there we go. Done and done.
That's our biggest change yet. 1.6 between you and me. I have a feeling we're going to have some where we're like dead on still, and some where we're really far apart. And
so it goes.
I might be surprised on some of it. All right, guys, let's move on to the next one. Number 8 in our list of Aragorn, the Dark and Brooding.
What his right name is, I've never heard, but round here.
Gentlemen,
What about breakfast?
I've already had it.
Aragorn the Dark and Brooding. That's what we're naming this here because there's a change to Aragorn that's just cosmetic, really. And we're going to talk about this. And there are more cosmetic changes in The Lord of the Rings that Peter Jackson makes. But it's not worth our time or your time to go over every little nitpicky thing about, the collar on Legolas's shirt or the boots that he wears.
No,
which maybe we'll do. It's enough.
That's totally worth
We have to
mentioning.
do. So in lieu of doing all the costume changes that are made based on how Tolkien wrote about characters, we'll still go over weaponry changes. I think that's something that we can look at. But we're going to take a look at the changes that Peter Jackson made here. So I'm first going to read how, in two places in the Fellowship of the Ring, how Tolkien describes Strider, aka Aragorn. And so this is in Bree at the Prancing Pony. He writes, his legs were stretched out before him, showing high boots of supple leather that fitted him well, but had seen much wear and were now caked with mud. A travel-stained cloak of heavy dark green cloth was drawn close about him. So maybe that's, you can see, there is a travel-stained cloak of some sort, but as we see further down, right, it's all dark, it's all black, and even here, when you get into where it's clear against the snow and Caradhras, you can see, or the Misty Mountains, you can see that it's black. And then this is his description as they leave Rivendell, as the Fellowship leaves Rivendell. Aragorn had Anduril but no other weapon, and he went forth clad only in rusty green-brown as a ranger of the wilderness. So I thought it'd be important to say, okay, well, rusty green-brown, what does that look like? How do we see it? And so this example here by Ted Naismith kind of gives us a better look at what Aragorn would kind of look like with tight-fitting boots, which he says they're boots that fitted him well. Obviously, they're a little bit more like light leather. But you can see, I don't know if it comes through on here, but the cloak, there is a little brown around under his elven cape here, elven cloak. That is the rusty brown and green, the green, right, that he's wearing as his primary tunic. So that fits a little bit closer to what Tolkien said.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Does that tunic looks green to you? It looks lighter brown to me. Am I colorblind?
To me, there's a little bit of green in it.
Okay, all right.
It certainly looks worn.
But anyway, it definitely fits the color.
It's green, lighter,
green,
right?
Brown. Yep.
This is Aragorn, dark and brooding, and so Aragorn is indeed. They just made him all black, all dark, all very mysterious. And you were going to say,
yeah. So yeah, I just think that one of the things that's important to understand about why we're taking this change on is because the colors, the quote you read out was the best one, which is the colors that Aragorn wears fit his status as a ranger. He's wearing ranger clothing, okay? Mm-hmm. And the ranger clothing is greens and browns. And clearly they don't do that in the movie. So
no, and I think if you look, it's because you look at the Hobbits and they're in greens and browns. And you can't have Aragorn in greens and browns, and you can't have the Hobbits in greens and browns, and Legolas is in greens. So it would make it very monotone for all the Fellowship to look exactly the same. I mean, it's like if they did all the all the dwarves wore exactly the same clothes, right? You wouldn't notice the difference between them. So I think that's where they start. All right, so let's then go through our changes here. So here we go. Aragorn, the dark and brooding, who's wearing dark clothes, and and so do a bunch of other people. They change their clothes too. So is it lore friendly to change Aragorn's clothes or to change anyone else's clothes to make them completely different or somewhat different than what Tolkien writes in The Lord of the Rings? Lore friendly, I'm going to say yes. It's unless it's like they're wearing something completely different, like it's a future. They changed the time zone, the time frame, and all of a sudden they're wearing mood rings and things like that, and sneakers, right? That's different. But in the change they made here, I think it's completely lore friendly. I don't have a problem with it at all, honestly.
Yeah, and I don't even think I'm going to go on a limb here, and Christopher Tolkien's going to turn over in his grave, but I don't even think Tolkien would care that much. Like the when you're showing a character from a book, even if the technical colors are somewhat off, it isn't like he's wearing pink or anything like that.
Right,
It's not,
exactly. Yeah.
He's wearing dark. Even that cloak, the dark cloak, which we use, as you said, does look like it's black. It might even have a tinge of dark green in it. It might be it's definitely, it's not outside the color palette. I don't think it's lore unfriendly. So I'm going to say yes.
Agreed. All right, let's go to the next one. Does the change make for better cinema? Does the change make for better cinema? Your turn, Michael. You go first.
Does it make for better cinema? I guess a mild yes, because of the color pattern that you said. Here's the important part. Butterbird doesn't like rangers. He considers rangers to be these scruffy ne'er-do-wells, and Aragorn definitely looks like a scruffy ne'er-do-well. Like the question for me is more of what effect does the color change have on the character? Aragorn looks the part of a guy that's been sleeping out in the wilds for months, weeks on end at least, and his clothing reflects that. It's dirty, it's dark colored,
right.
it's good color. I think with the contrast issue that you mentioned, where the hobbits are in slightly lighter colors, Legolas is in green. It is probably better from a contrast perspective. Mild, yes.
Yeah, I think it makes better visually on screen to have something completely different for him than the hobbits. If you met him at the same time, and I don't have a clip here, but if you had Frodo in Bree, right, he comes in with brown and green, essentially, or maybe a dark red, you could almost say. But that's how Tolkien describes Aragorn, and so you've got to make him different. There's no way to to make it all bland and boring on screen, and give them something different to hang their hat on. And if it's a visual effect, like that's minor, like just changing the color of his cloak, of his shirt, of his pants, 100%, I'm totally fine with that. I think it made it actually better.
Yep. All right.
How much do you like the change? How much do you like the change? All right, I'll go first. I mean, it's not like a change I would go like, you know what, that was a really good decision. It's not a 4 or a 5, so I'm probably gonna land somewhere around it's the right decision for cinema. So I like it. I think I'm good with it. It makes me perfectly fine that that's who Aragorn was in the beginning, and they kind of gave him that more brooding. I mean, he comes across as brooding in the books as well, right in the beginning. So I think that lends to his character a little bit more, because it's a visual representation of who we need the character to be.
That makes sense. I'm going to go with for the exact same reasons. I think I like it. I didn't even really notice it when I was watching it. I wasn't like, oh, the colors are changed. I admit that there are a slight change afterwards, but it didn't break my immersion. In retrospect, I like it. So 3.8.
3.8. Yeah, still higher. I'm trying to reach your level, Michael. Just can't do it, man. Just can't get to that.
That's right. I am just an inveterate optimist. That's what I am.
You're just a super fan of Peter Jackson.
That's right. I should have been on the super fans of the Rings of Power. I would have had a thing to say.
3.8. 3.8. Yeah. You love the Rings of Power. You love that Gollum game, I hear, too. That was pretty awesome.
The best game I've ever played.
All right, guys. That's number 8, Aragorn the Dark and Brooding. Does his change matter? Do any of those really minor costume changes matter? Not really, guys. I mean, not really. Not like, Faramir matters.
We're just there's a few changes that I'm just waiting. It's going to turn into because they're going to be months down the line, because there are hundreds of changes, and when I finally get there to Faramir, I'm going to explode. I'm going to rant. It's going to be like a 10-minute rant for me. But until then,
actually, we've got a big one next, and that's Aragorn, the Reluctant King.
There's no strength left in the world of men.
There is one who could unite them. One who could reclaim the throne of Gondor.
He turned from that path a long time ago. He has chosen exile. They will answer to the King of Gondor. Anduril, the flame of the west, forged from the shards of Narsil. Put aside the ranger. Become who you are born to be.
Oh man, I still hate that line. I hate it so much. When I saw that in the movies, I couldn't stand that they waited this long to make him the king. And that's what we're talking about. Aragorn, the Reluctant King. And as we saw from the very beginning of those clips that I pulled, he was made to not want the kingdom, right? And this is where in the beginning in the Fellowship of the Ring, when Gandalf is talking to Elrond, he says to him, Elrond says to Frodo, "There's no strength left in men, right? They're a poor and broken people,
Right.
scattered." And I can't remember exactly what he says. And so Elrond, who raised Aragorn, who believed in Aragorn, is this. Oh, we'll get to Elrond. I guess I can't concentrate on Elrond. But Aragorn is reluctant, right? And in the books, he knows who he is, and he leaves Rivendell with Anduril. He doesn't wait until he's right before he heads into the Dunharrow. Thank you. Yes. Okay. So he's not reluctant, and I'm going to read you a couple quotes from that Tolkien wrote in Fellowship of the Ring, and this is in Rivendell. At the Council of Elrond, I believe. Maybe it's right before. And he writes this: "He is Aragorn, son of Arathorn," said Elrond, "and he's descended through many fathers from Isildur, Elendil's son of Minas Ithil. He is the chief of the Dunedain in the north, and few are now left of that folk." So he immediately says he is descended through many fathers from Isildur, Elendil's son. Right? He's the king, is what he's saying by pointing that out. And then when Aragorn is looking at Boromir, Tolkien writes this: "Aragorn smiled at him. Then he turned to Boromir again. 'For my part, I forgive your doubt,' he said. 'Little do I resemble the figures of Elendil and Isildur as they stand carven in their majesty in the halls of Denethor. I am but the heir of Isildur, not Isildur himself. I have had a hard life, and along the leagues that lie between here and Gondor are a small part in the count of my journeys. I have crossed many mountains and many rivers and trodden many plains, even to the far countries of Rhûn and Harad, where the stars are strange.'" But he here too says, "I am the heir of Isildur," not Isildur himself, but still the heir. And then looking at the Argonath, Tolkien writes, "Fear not," Aragorn said. "Long have I desired to look upon the likenesses of Isildur and Anarion, my sires of old. Under their shadow, Elisar, the Elfstone of Arathorn of the house of Valendil, Isildur's son, heir of Elendil, has naught to dread." So right there, he's going through the whole litany of Elisar, the Elfstone, son of Arathorn, of the house of Valendil, Isildur's son. Right? That's who he is, heir of Elendil. He has nothing to fear because that's where he's going. So he knows he's going to be the king. He is a driven person to ascend the throne because he knows this is the point. And so that's why Anduril is forged before they leave Rivendell.
Right.
Woo, that was a lot.
Okay, so those are some great quotes. I love the one about the Argonath because it shows that Aragorn is embracing his royal lineage. There is no doubt in him. The one quote that we did not pick up from the movie, which Aragorn says that the same weakness is in him.
Oh, good point. I should have brought that up.
But that's okay. Everyone knows it or can look it up. Aragorn himself doubts in the movies. Aragorn doubts his own worthiness because Isildur failed in the face of the ring's temptation. So Aragorn says that's a weakness in men, and Elrond echoes that to his conversation with Arwen in the movies. So this is a major change. Unlike some of the previous ones we've been covering, this is a massive change. Because it speaks to the motivation. I mean, the name of the book, Return of the King, that's about Aragorn. So he is a primary figure in Tolkien's in the story that Tolkien is telling, and he is not reluctant. He is neither reluctant nor is he scared of his own lineage. He is proud of his lineage, as the quotes you made showed. I would add a couple things from the appendices. Aragorn has been preparing for this return for a long time. He had made a show in Gondor years before, preparing them to accept him. They even built a statue to him, Thorongil, under the name of Thorongil. And he fought against the Corsairs of Umbar, and he made himself like he was doing the work of a king. And to the people of Gondor at that time, he was a hero because it wasn't the right time to declare who he was in his full lineage. But at the time of the tale of the ring, the War of the Ring, it was the right time, and he embraces it. As you mentioned, he and Elrond are of one mind. There's no disagreement. Elrond has Narsil reforged into Anduril before they leave Rivendell. Aragorn, and then the instead of having Elrond show up with Anduril, which is the shot you show here, what really happened was on the way back from Isengard with the Rohirrim with King Theoden, they are overtaken by a band of rangers. Aragorn's own kinfolk, who are there all grim men and very impressive to the people, even to the warriors of the Rohirrim. So the Rangers of the North come, and they come bearing a standard, which we don't know is a standard yet until after the Paths of the Dead. But they come bearing a standard which has been in the works. Aragorn and Arwen have been engaged; they've been betrothed.
Mm-hmm.
At the time of when it's not actually Elrond, it's his sons Elladan and Elrohir that come bearing the standard. Elrond never leaves Rivendell during the book, but they come bearing the standard. This is a standard that has been woven by his betrothed for nearly 40 years, for 38 years since their betrothal. She's been weaving with mithril, gold, and gems this standard, which is the combined standard of Gondor and the markings of the House of Elendil, showing his lineage. And so this has been 40 years in the making, even from Arwen's perspective. And so this is well planned out. This is the path. It's the time of fulfillment of the prophecy, which is why in Dunharrow he goes into.
And isn't it funny that it's a great point you bring up, that in the movies it's Arwen that pushes her father to reforge Narsil into Anduril. In the books, she's been doing it, like you said, for 30 years. And this is what she said to this is what she had Halbarad say to Aragorn, that she sends these words for you. The days are now short. Either our hope cometh or all hopes end. Therefore I send thee what I have made for thee. Farewell, Elfstone. So she's like, this is your destiny. Mm-hmm. It's all on you, man. You've got to take it all. And so, yeah, bigger, like, there's a hint of where he's going to, like, you don't know in a way because of who he is and who he's portrayed as he's not kingly, right? You don't meet him as the kingly king. Right. But once he has a standard, once he starts leading men, right, you start seeing that transformation. So to say, okay, I'm getting into this stuff. So to say that he doesn't transform in the books, I think is unstudied. But
there's no sign of the weakness. He's not scared of his lineage.
Right.
The question is it the right time? And as the quote from Arwen when she gives him the standard she's been working on for decades, and also his own musing when he references the fact that he and Elrond spoke of him being the fulfillment of the prophecy is at the Paths of the Dead, and that's why his remembering of that and his discussion with Elladan and Elrohir is what makes him take the final step to go into the Paths of the Dead. He's embracing his lineage, and he's embraced it already. The question is just for him, Ben, in the books, when is the right time? Is it now? And the answer is yes. Now is the right time. Now it's time to come as the king, to return as the king to Gondor via the Paths of the Dead. And so this is it lore friendly? It is so lore unfriendly that if I could have two yeses, two no's, I would put two no's in there. How about H and hell no?
I was trying to add, it just doesn't. Big fonts, man. So we'll say it's
no. This is the opposite of lore friendly. No exclamation point. There we go. That'll be you get 3.
It is not friendly at all. This is one of those changes where I was just.
This is not just lore unfriendly. This is lore opposite. This is opposite of lore. I remember seeing Return of the King, and I thought I had gotten over my dislike of how they had changed things by that point. I'd seen the movies enough. I'd be like, okay, I'm accepting the movies for what they are. But when Elrond comes in and says, "Be the king you were meant to be," it's like, he knows that already. He's supposed to have known that, and it's not supposed to be something thrust on him by Elrond and Arwen. Yeah, his beta male speech to Arwen about how the same weakness lies in him. That to me was the worst. That was when I was like banging on the arms of the.
Should have brought that one up too.
The seat in the theater.
This is the problem with some of these changes. There would be too many clips to pull. I'd be like knocked down off YouTube. They'd be like, "You can't post that, guys."
All right, so we're of one mind on that one.
Definitely lore friendly. I don't think we can do like an exclamation point in my spreadsheet here of all of our different changes. So.
That's all right.
Okay. Does the change make for better cinema?
Hell no.
No. I mean, I think we're both of the same mind here. This is where these big changes were always going to be in the same boat, I think. No, it doesn't.
Making Aragorn weak does not. Now I heard something about that, about how he like Jackson wanted to make sure there was some tension, and he thought
Gotta
that
have
was
a character arc. Gotta have a character arc.
Yep, and the arc, and I'm just look. That doesn't, to my mind, that doesn't make better cinema. Making Aragorn weak. Aragorn is the epic hero, the returning king. The cool thing about Lord of the Rings is that Tolkien shows his literary chops by giving us about 4 heroes instead of 4 different types of hero in the movie. But Aragorn fulfills the epic hero, the Beowulf character to the fullest, more than any other of the heroes. I think Gandalf can be argued to be a hero. Sam and Frodo can each be argued to be a hero of different types as well. But this is not better cinema. This is worse cinema.
No, and I think it goes to what we talked about in a previous episode, where Jackson feels like every character has to have some sort of an arc, and it's sort of like he thrusts it on them whether they need it or not. So Faramir had to have that character arc, even though he's a tertiary character.
Yeah.
Even Arwen had to have a character arc. I mean, he wanted to make her a battle babe too, but that didn't work out, thankfully.
Battle babe.
All right, let's go to the last question. How much, on a scale of 1 to 5, not 0 to 5, Michael, 1 to 5, how much do you like the change?
0.5, which rounds up to 1. So yeah.
How low can you go?
How much do I like the change? Is it the lowest possible? Actually, I won't say it's a 1.0. That's okay. I will reserve that for a few others.
Yeah.
I'll give it a 1.2 because I understand where he's coming from on that, and it does give it a cinematic arc. It's just the wrong arc, and so I'll give it a 1.2. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. I think if his change would have been one of the only changes they made, like if they would have changed him and not changed, say, Faramir, or changed Merry, or changed Arwen, right? If they wouldn't have made all these changes, I would probably be less aggressive in my dislike of this. So I'm going to try and siphon that off and say, as just this one change, I'm going to go a little bit higher than you and say it's not the worst, because I understand the need to make a character arc for a primary character, and making him reluctant, is not the character arc that I wanted to see, but it's not the worst thing in the world either. They could have made it even worse. And like if he truly fought against being king and ran away and then decided to come back, like if they would have done that.
Yeah. For me, it's just so visceral because Aragorn is the true epic hero, and this is an epic, and I love epic heroism so much that change to make him weak. That's why I went so low. I agree with you. It isn't. I can think of worse changes. Faramir's, for example. Yeah. Spoiler alert. In 3 months or so, when we get to Faramir, he's going to be a 1.0. I'm telling you that already, because that's the worst. But
yeah, it's not going to be 3 months, man.
Okay, whatever.
9 months, 10 months.
Okay.
All right. So 1.2. This is definitely our lowest one. So there you have it. That's by far the worst change made so far that we've discussed to Lord of the Rings. One that is throughout the entire books. This is not just like removing a character. This is actually changing his base motivations and making him into something that was not what Tolkien wrote.
He was a lesser man, and in a big way. So I don't like it.
Well put. I don't know. Do we have any closing thoughts? One thing maybe about this here, about the idea of an Aragorn, is imagine if they would have still had Stuart Townsend, who was 27 when they started filming. Yeah. And Viggo Mortensen was 40 or 41, I think, when they started filming. And so clearly, imagine if they would have done that with him, how much different that really would have felt with Stuart Townsend. So I feel like even then they realized, this really isn't working. We got to raise it just a little bit to make it a little bit more acceptable, to give him a little bit more gravitas. Not just
in Dunedain years,
not wanting to do it.
In Dunedain years, he's about in his late 30s.
Yeah.
In regular human years, he's about in his late 30s, even though he's 87 technically, because he lives to be 300. So, he's late 30s, and a guy that's 40 looks a little older, which is appropriate because he, as you quoted, the years were hard on him. the Aragorn's own quote from the Council of Elrond. So yeah, I think age-wise, Viggo was a great choice for that.
Yeah, I agree. I think he pulled it off. I mean, that's one of the strengths of these films is who they cast. Honestly, other than Elijah Wood, I think he was the weakest part in the whole cast. We'll get to that at some point, probably.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, Gandalf and Bilbo and Aragorn and Gimli and Boromir, even Legolas. Like there's a lot there to like. But I just couldn't get on board with Elijah Wood. Anyway, that's something we'll talk about in the future. All right, guys, we're going to jump into our extended edition, our extended episode, the episode for those that are better than all of you who are sticking around, because we're going to talk about more important things. I don't even know what we're going to talk about. It's like I said earlier, we're just going to,
but it's going to be awesome.
We're just going to throw it in there. If you want to listen to what we're going to talk about that we don't even know, so we can't even really promote it, become a member at thewondery.com/member. It's $4 a month. Hey, the first month is free. And join us on Discord. We've got a good few dozen going there. We're approaching the century mark, slowly but surely, but we're approaching that, and that's exciting. And not everybody, like far fewer than actually sign up, have gotten to Discord. So if you haven't gotten to Discord, just go to thewonering.com, log in, go to my account, and then go to your account page. And at the bottom of that page, there's a little button that says connect to Discord, and you can just connect to Discord. You can do it in browser too. So go ahead and do that. thewonering.com/member. Thanks, everybody. See you on the other side.
Bye, freeloaders.